Hi, Satish. Thank you so much for joining us today. With the kind of experience that you have in the industry, you might have seen things changing in this industry, not just in the freight forwarding, but also from the air cargo point of view, how stakeholders change, how processes really change. Can you give me an idea, a historical perspective of how things evolved in freight forwarding and particularly from the air freight point of view?
Historically, if you would have gone back and see, India started with the concept of Indian Airlines and Air India, where Indian Airlines used to cater for the domestic and the SAARC region and Middle East, and Air India would cater to the Europe as well as to the Area 1. And India's restriction was predominantly up till New York or those type of destinations, and we've never went in. And from that era, things started to change. The open sky policy started, and then later you saw the entry of the Middle Eastern carriers like Emirates, Qatar, Etihad, Saudi Arabian Airlines, and the rest of them coming into the country, which resulted in one way some necessary upgradations in terms of the airline understanding. Because Air India was a pioneer in terms of the training aspects, because Indian Airlines had its training colleges in Hyderabad in those days, in a place called Balnagar, and we used to all undergo trainings only with Air India. But after the evolution of the Middle Eastern carriers and the rest of them come in, one competition came in, which was good, and competition is required in any sphere of business that we do. What is important to understand is that in the past, you never had institutions of training for people. So, someone like me had never went into a training school and learned. Whereas when you go to a college today, you go through kindergarten and you get into a primary school and the rest of them. I think what's the opportunity now for the industry is you can go through a training process. I did my MBA in supply chain at a very later stage of my career. So one, the industry is evolved. They realize the importance of training, and training brings that you do lesser mistakes because well-informed employees are more important than anything else. So that is one aspect of it. Also, the way our stakeholders in terms of ground handling and the rest of them, it was typically an airport authorities driven organization to privatization of the airports. So if you look at the Delhi airport now to what it was at Palam, the Hyderabad airport at Begum to what it is now, it is a greenfield airport. The Bangalore Dumlurs airport to the Kempegoda airport now. Chennai also went through a sort of an upgradation, but Chennai still has a larger chance for it. Bombay's second airport is coming up, Noida is coming up. And the good thing is that the Indian airports have not only upgraded for passengers but also have upgraded in terms of your cargo handling sort of it. 20 years ago, you never had pharma zones. So India has evolved to be the pharma hub, vaccine hub, and I should admit and say that we are far superior than a lot of other countries in terms of understanding of pharma and creating the infrastructure. Also, if you look at an airport like Bangalore today, the good thing is that it's the epicenter for perishable exports. As much as Kerala was an epicenter for perishable, but the first of the kind in the globe where you have import and export handling capabilities for perishable, which means your temperature excursions, your chances of the fruit not going out, or if you want tomorrow even to do flowers export into Amsterdam, India has created that capability. Also, it's one of the industries where the employment opportunities are only going to grow. So, one of the message that I would probably want to give through your channel is that supply chain is going to be a boardroom discussion surely in the days to come, because it will determine the bottom lines of most of the organization and the speed at which you reach your product. So, I think air cargo will become an important essential aspect for everyone, because the e-commerce industry's expectation like Blinkit or someone to deliver in 9 minutes of groceries into your house, it can't happen on a bicycle. The guy should be really flying sort of it. So I think air cargo has got a bright future. India has got a bright future because belly capacity will be there, because Indians are bound to be aspiring to go to the other parts of the world.
Before we start up talking about the company to which you are working right now, we'll look a little bit into the stakeholders in this industry. To start with, the government actually. There is a push from the government side to reduce the logistics cost. First of all, second, there is a push to improve the infrastructure. There is incentives, for example, the Krishi Udan scheme, for example, to move goods. So, do you think the government side, the government policies are on the right track to achieve the 10 million target, for example, or to make India a transshipment hub? What do you think about that and other stakeholders in the industry?
For the last 40 years, the logistics industry never had a status by itself. So the first thing that has happened is that today the logistics industry has at least got status as an important industry, which is a landmark by itself. But lot has to be done on that aspect. Now coming to the aspect of the other aspects in terms of what government is looking at a 10 billion tons in the next 3 years, if we precisely look. My take is that it was good for government to look at the cargo industry because they're considering it as a sunshine vertical for it. It was an underdog, and in one of the recent conferences, the government also mentioned that it's not an underdog but a super dog. I don't know whether terminology is right or wrong. And my point is that if we want to achieve the 10 billion target, the government should also determine how much is going to come out from which state, from which airport, on which route, and on which vertical. Why I'm saying that is it's good to aspire to do something, but for execution you need a proper plan and the milestones need to be mapped. So that is one part of it. Next, coming to the PM Gati Shakti program. I think that is a brilliant initiative from a government to really look at putting more than 7 ministries together to address multiple issues at one time. That will be a game changer as far as India is concerned. A lot of people need to take the trouble to understand the PM Gati Shakti program, and incidentally, I've been involved with it and I represent a few states in terms of the Logistics Skill Council and the rest of them. So I feel that that is a great initiative where one full information is available on what land is available, what roads are there, where pipelines are there, what you can do where, and if someone can utilize it, that saves a lot of time. So you turn around time happens. Next, Krushi Udan program which you mentioned. The Krushi Udan program, one was launched initially and now they launched the Krushi Udan program 2, which was done at the Delhi in one of the organizations which like FICCI or auditorium where I attended it. What I like about the program is the need for supporting the farmers is being addressed. Markets like Northeast and other markets are being really looked with a clear route of Lucknow and rest of them. What they have missed out is that today some of the markets which are like the mangoes from Nasik or from the Banganpillis from Andhra, those are not covered. So one of the thing which is important is don't restrict the scheme to specific states or specific regions, but make it as a scheme which will help farmer from any part of the country. Ultimately, a farmer is a farmer and a crop is a crop. And also create a scheme in which it's not just the airlines which are being given incentivized, but other stakeholders like truckers, like the freight forwarders, and that will help really to address the issue in a multifold way. So I think to summarize, and I would say we are on the right track, but we need to put more clear details in terms of it with linked with data and then execute it and see the progress on a year on basis, or I would say monthly data board should be released for people to see whether we are making a progress or not.
Let's start talking about your company in which you are working right now, Wiz Freight. Okay, I know it's a digital freight forwarding company. Beyond that, to help my audience understand, can you brief about what does this really mean to be a digital freight forwarding company? There are many digital freight forwarding company right now. I could see the market. How are you different from them? How big is Wiz, for example, or how you want to become, for example? How are you different?
I think it's a very valid question because today when I talk to people, there is lack of clarity on our organization several times. So I think to bring clarity to the audience and rest of them, let us get back to history of the freight forwarding industry. If you look at any freight forwarder historically, neither he owns the office, neither he owns the cargo, neither he owns the truck, neither he owns the software, but there is only one thing called trust based on which the customer used to give the car. But the pain area for the customer was one important aspect where the customer did not have visibility at multiple stages. Why I say multiple stages is that it moves through 33 or 34 hands before it really reaches the destination. So we found that as a good problem statement to really look at it. So what Wiz does as an organization is it's a full stack digital forwarder. We are not a marketplace for rates. One I would want to clarify to a lot of people is we are not a portal where you come and just find out rates and go away. We want to give a seamless service to our customers right from the pickup to the final delivery. Also make sure that everything is controlled by us either directly or indirectly to our partners. It means you once a customer sends in a request, everything goes through the system. That means your rate request goes through the system, your booking goes through the system. We ultimately ensure that end of the day the customer gets updated at every stage. What I mean is that today a cargo arrival notice, when it is issued by the airline or by the forwarder after it lands. But whereas today you can use technology where the aircraft touches down, you can notify your customer that the flight is touched down, and you can always notify him that, look, subject to load, we will confirm to you whether your cargo is arrived or not. But at least he's mentally prepared that the cargo is there. One, that part. Two, trucking is a very disorganized and fragmented market, because no one has one single user can give you a lot of trucks. So what we have also done is, under this tracks, we have been able to give visibility of the trucking and positioning of the trucks and usage of the trucks. That is the other part. The last wonderful thing for our customers today is the storage of the documents, because the Indian Customs Act in the past used to stipulate storage of documents for 7 years. And to store 7 years of document, tomorrow if anything happens to your warehouse or anyone, your cargo, so they can store the documents on our cloud for free for lifetime, at least for customers who are signing up with us. And as a result of which, what happens, they just need a user word and password to access their documents, and it's restricted to them. Two, if they want to give access of some of their documents to their consignees, instead of sending emails and xeroxing it, you can just download the documents using the technology and to receive and clear the cargo on the destination. So I think there are multiple advantages that you ultimately reduce manual intervention by at least a 20 to 30% against the current system. So that at least is a big relief for the industry. So there will be portals with unique USPs, but these are our USPs which really are making us move fast, and we anticipate that in the next few years we will be a serious player globally and not restricted to India. This year we aim to open 12 countries precisely. Singapore will be our Asia Pacific headquarters, and Dubai will be our Africa and Middle East headquarters. And the process is already started, and you would have watched in LinkedIn and other social media about the recruitment that is happening at a rapid pace. And I should admit that I would have never done this type of a recruitment in my previous organizations, but the speed at which we have put in, including our IATA, FIATA and TIACA, is really amazing sort of it. So that's more about our organization.
To support these kind of services, you really need a very robust technology infrastructure, right? Can you brief a little bit about the technology infrastructure you have? For example, you have something called the global control tower, for example. You could see everything that is moving. You can control everything from your, I believe, from your headquarters, for example, in Chennai. So you are also intending to use AI and ML into your analytics, for example. Can you brief about what is, yeah?
So, as you know, today the largest organizations like Google or Microsoft are typically controlled by Indians. And I think Indians have a great amount of passion for technology. And it is not surprising that our founder Ramkumar Govindarajan, also, who's 29 years old, had that passion and vision towards using technology to the best of it, and which itself is what has driven this organization. So Chennai, where we have our control towers, one control tower which is for our trucking, which is there. The good thing is today we can monitor every truck which is on our system or using our system at kilometer level, at where it stops, how many kilometers it was supposed to do for the day. If he was to do 400, how much he is done, at what speed the truck was going throughout the journey. Also, if it is overstopped at any particular location or it has diverted from the real route, we are able to map it. So that's an absolute watch in control towers with an technology where you get alerts at various levels. Suppose if our end customer demands that he wants an alert at a particular stage, we can feature in and factor in that part of it to create that type of alert. That's as far as the trucking is concerned. As far as the pharma vertical is concerned, we are setting up a global innovation and control tower in Hyderabad. And the reason why we are doing it is that the know-how for that control tower is there, because Hyderabad, incidentally, is a pharma hub and a vaccine hub. So we are putting our control towers based on what locations and what commodities. So you can't have one shirt fits for all sizes sort of it, because the pharma verticals are more compliance driven, city pad driven, but every pharma shipment will go through a stringent process of monitoring, whether the person has followed it. And two is that our partner organizations with whom we are planning to work are also reputed organizations who have stringent measures. So we can map or through an API integrate in such a way that in one system for that vertical, we are able to maintain the temperature, we can track the shipment, even if we have to generate tomorrow a CAPA report, which is basically corrective and preventive sort of it. We want to automate it. So we are trying, some of the works have been done, but I think it's a continuous process of building the control towers and putting more into it based on the customer needs. Because today's need may not be 2 years down the lane, there may be upgradations that we require, new laws that may be coming in. So we are working on it. And for supporting the whole initiative, we are looking at anywhere between 100 to 150 people only on the tech side. Okay, so that basically gives you is that if you have 300 people or 400 on the freight forwarding side in a country like India, you also have an equal number of people. So we are more a tech organization rather than saying we are a typical freight forwarder. So we are a tech company in all means.
Even though you are looking to become a global player, are you creating an Indian version of Flexport, for example? Is that the idea?
I think, see, Flexport entered this industry far before us, which is one advantage they had. Though they were sitting in one of the largest markets, which is US and rest of them, and there the challenges have always been different. So, to answer your point, each one has their own USPs because they are addressing the larger developed markets. But our focus is predominantly to address the emerging markets because the complexity of the emerging markets is far different from an established Europe market where a 40-feet truck can go straight on a road and you can clearly plan and say it will hit in 4 hours from now from Frankfurt to a particular destination. Whereas in India, more than the distance, the uncertainty factors are far higher. And today we thought it's better to address these nations like India, Bangladesh or those type of markets in the Middle East and focus on the emerging markets. So Flexport is good in terms of they doing what they're doing in sort of it, and we are focused on a different set of market. I think this is the beauty of both the organizations.
There are many other companies or competitors who would like to do the same kind of things that you intend to do. For example, I would look into Kogo Port or Shipsy, for example, even though they have a different style of doing it. How you are really fitting into that ecosystem actually? Do you
So,
think there are space for many new such tech-focused logistics companies to come into the space?
see, any new player who wants to come in, one you can definitely not stop him. But if he has to come in and survive, they should have some unique selling propositions which are there. Why are we going to be more successful than rest of them? Is that one, let's understand, and if you see today, in a startup generally, you don't have that type of an experience that is required in certain stages to take some sort of a decision. We are an ideal combination of a 29-year-old to a set of senior veterans from the industry who are 60 years old to 53 as well, and some of them sort of it. So, one, we are getting the right fit of people who have worked on the other side of the table as well, and what are their pain points and how do we address it? One part. Two, today you may have a portal, but where do you have the capacity? So, we've started something called as a unicorn shipping line, which is an NVOCC operation. That basically means tomorrow not only do we have the technology, but we will also have the containers which we can give to our existing customers. So, one, we are addressing that part of it because there's container shortage. So, whoever works with us then has the advantage of even using our containers. Two, trucks are already there, even though we are asset light in one way, but they are able to use our trucks. So, you don't have this issue of going for everything to someone else. So, even if we do all this, and tomorrow, even if required, we will not hesitate to operate some aircrafts on certain routes through partnership. What I mean by that is that today, if someone wants space, and I know every Friday I have to fly into a particular destination, and there are 4 customers, 4 of them hiring a charter will be a problem. But using technology, I can plug in the demand and the supply and have a charter operator or an existing scheduled airline on whom I can take a capacity and allocate it to my customers using technology. So I think that is our USP is one part of it. Two, for every vertical we are building a state-of-art technology to match it in sense. Why I mean that is that today we are building pharma centers which are under process in Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore. But in phase 1 we will do Hyderabad and Mumbai because it will take a 90 days for us to ramp it. So there we are creating capabilities for 2 to 8, 15 to 25, minus 70 degrees, which any other portal may hesitate because that's not their area of expertise. So I think we are not just creating technology, we are creating some unique propositions which make the customer look at it as an one point where he can get solutions for different verticals. Okay, we may not cover all the verticals, but we have clear mandate for 8 or 9 verticals.
To get an idea about the type of growth happening in Wiz, you already mentioned that you are hiring many people. particularly in the tech side of it. Okay, give me an idea about what is the type of growth that is happening in Wiz. Plus, if that many kind of technology people are coming into your company, for example, you are intending to implement AI and ML, which are the specific use cases that we would see in the future? For example, I mean, in next 5 years, how Wiz would be operating? Are you will you be able to predict the costing or capacity? How is that?
Tech cannot be taken out from anyone's life now. We all have to admit that when the phones came in, the smartphones, there were a lot of people who were from the old school of thought and said, why are we investing so much of the money on this part of it, and do we really need sort of. So what tech did was really the convenience of accessing your emails, placing order to a lot of stuff, going to the DigiLocker and storing your documents, and now it become an addiction. So someone would end up spending 1,30,000 or 1,13,000 on an iPhone 13 Pro. So there's no denial on that part of it, and if it'll be wrong to say that tech is not going to be part of our life, and I guess this is what. So definitely, it's going to be same in the case of our logistics industry also, that you will need sort of use cases can be many, not one or two, and sort of it. Today, let's go to the used case of how your tracking of shipments has been happening historic. Today, if you look at your tracking of shipments, you would take an airway bill number or a bill of lading, go to a particular airline website, and then you would put the number, and every 3 hours or 4 hours you would know. But when you have robotic process automation in the first place, and the advantage of using RPA would be is that you don't need to have an employees deployed 24 by 7 to keep tracking the shipments. Deploy RPA, whether the person is sick, whether the person is not on Saturday, Sunday, it will increase productivity. It will also increase efficiency in terms of your quality of information being pumped into your system time and time. That is one part. So it may be initially an expensive process, but if you have the scale, and then if you're doing it for globally from somewhere like Chennai, it's a solid use case for you to really look at it. So one is that. Two, on the pharma side, today track and trace is like a mandatory requirement. So you have earlier tracking a container was big problem. Today shipping lines have RCMs, which are remote control monitoring systems that are there. So we would definitely want that as a used case where the our containers tracking system is really linked to our system, so that the customer ultimately gets a user experience of whether using a MERS container or a ZIM container is one part of it. Two, we want to really get into a situation on the pharma side where India is a market on the domestic side also with a large opportunity, and the Indian market would not be able to afford high expensive products which would come from the other parts of the world. So your classic case would be is that you put IoT devices into these small boxes which have a shelf life of 48 hours to really deliver a temperature control. And using technology, we will link it to our system where customer has the ability to see the shipment, and then also have that you don't spend too much of a money in sort of it, because the higher they have to spend on logistics, and like you rightly said that the government is trying to reduce the cost of it. These are the initiatives which will help us really help every patient to get a safe medicine using technology and using devices which are built in India. So the three use cases I spoke about are basically these which we are looking at apart from the cloud-based documentation and the plenty of them. So hiring has not been easy, to answer your other question sort of it, but I think we are making a lot of effort in terms of hiring the talent, and I'm happy to say that most of the people are coming looking at our leadership in the organization, because we can't boast about a history that we carry, because in an 18-month organization we can't talk about a lot of things, but I think the trust and faith that a lot of people have in the industry, since they have worked with us in the past, that is making them come to us today. And we will not break the trust for sure, because we are committed to our employees, we are committed towards the industry to give a great environment for work. And if you look at any of our offices today, they're not typical freight forwarding offices, they're like tech companies sort of it. So I think these are some of the things which will really boost our growth even in the coming days.
Satish, as an important leader from this industry who led this industry through the one of the most challenging times in the history of this industry, what will be your one message to newcomers to this industry, the supply chain, the logistics industry? There is an increasing demand for supply chain management and people coming to this to learn supply chain actually specifically because of the disruption that happened. Can you tell me about?
The logistics is a brilliant industry, and I'm proud to be a part of this. When I came in as a lawyer, as a corporate lawyer, people said you're doing wrong because the people are not highly educated here. And my answer to them is that then you need people like me. who have to bring the change. So my message is to every parent here and every student here, this is the future and there's no denial about it. And I commit to everyone that come into the industry and you'll enjoy it and you'll never leave. One. Two, institutions should clearly interact with the industry expertise, make us listen to us and understand how wonderful this industry is, and every parent needs to ensure at least one child of them come in. So what you will address basically is that the acute shortage of manpower you will address. Two is training becomes easy at home. What you don't learn in colleges, sometimes you learn at home. And that is what is the message that I'm giving is that please come to our industry. We are here to guide you. We are here to mentor you. And we are superior in many aspects in terms of our work ethics system, our flexibility to work from home now using technology. The industry is evolving faster and faster. And India is going to be the future for logistics.
Satish, what do you think is the future of freight forwarding in India, especially from a perspective of Wiz Freight? What we can expect from you in next 5 to 10 years?
One, the benefits that our customers are seeing will make sure that that word it will automatically spread to other customers, because today the user experience is what will drive you to go it. If you go today to a restaurant, it is presumed you will get good food. It is presumed that the waiters will be courteous and service sort of it. So today when someone comes to Wiz, we would aim clearly to give a customer experience which is not there with others. Okay, two ways. One, using technology, but still this industry is people driven. So we will have one of the largest sales force ever created in the country, so that our customers are taken through that experience for a certain period of time, make them comfortable with the tech part of it, and ensure that you have a key account dedicated wherever required, which will make sure that they have tech, they have know-how with the industry expertise, and we have people from the other side who can address the industry issues. And two, decision making will be faster. Why I'm saying this is that today if you work for multinationals, and since when I worked with a multinational, my hands were tied in the back, but I was asked to swim, because if I ask for an approval, it's question of should we approve or not. But in an organization like which is a flat structure, the decision is done over a phone call, which means a customer is struggling, we are able to fix the problem at a faster rate. Which that means it's easier for customers to deal with.
Thank you so much, Satish, for joining us today.
Thank you, Lubin. It was a pleasure talking to you.